Hey, peace, Uhuru to the family. Welcome back. Welcome back to another podcast and book club. We Charge Colonialism. I am Ikemba Ojore, the co-host of this podcast and book club and lead writer of our organization. Here with my comrade. What's going on?
Peace, everyone. This is Frank, host for the Revolutionary
We lost you already. I was just having a conversation with Frank. Oh, there you go.
Come
We was
back.
just having a smooth conversation. Now, look, go ahead, brother. I got you.
Okay, yeah, I was saying, this is Frank, host for the Revolutionary Infatuation Educational Lecture Series as part of WCC every Sunday at 1 p.m.
Right on, right on. So y'all know how we do. You know, y'all probably been here before. Y'all know how these Saturdays go. But if this is just your first time, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to the channel, like and share, and hit that notification bell as well. You know, these are important conversations that we have um, during this podcast, but we also have other podcasts that we do on this channel that you don't want to miss out on. You know, we cover the works of Dr. Amison Wilson, France Fanon, Kwame Nkrumah, and you know the list goes on and on. And today, you know, we're going to be covering Africa and global politics, continuing with that reading, chapter 3. I will place a link in the description, but you can, link in the chat, but you can also find the link in the description. We got somebody, a third. We was 2/3 right of our cipher, but now we about to be complete. What's going on? We gotta bring her up. What's happening?
Hey
Let's complete
everyone.
the cipher.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be back.
Yeah, you know, yo, this is probably the first time we all been together in a long time, man.
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah.
this feels good to get the crew, get the gang back together on a Saturday. So yeah, you know, appreciate everybody too for tapping in, like share. So you know what we usually do before we get into our book reading, we do a weekly roundup, cover a few news stories, and then in the second half of this podcast, we go into our book reading. So before we do that, I know Frank has something that he wants to give to the people.
Yeah. It's a story about Burkina Faso, right? And you know, the West, that the US or UK, they have always played Africa, and we always buy into it. So last week or last 2 weeks, um the US embassy in Burkina Faso went to Abraham Traore. And by the way, this is something that happened, but because it got turned down, it never got reported and they never published it. Okay, so you want to get it on first-hand information from Burkina Faso and things. Yeah, so the US embassy, because everything that is going on, the US is trying to build a relationship behind the scene with the ECOWAS nation unaware, with AU unaware, right? Because after they pull like all Africans together and then they go behind the scene to go fix their set. So they went behind the scene unaware of ECOWAS and AU. They went to Burkina Faso, the United States Embassy, and then tried to lobby with Burkina Faso to build a mini clinic in Burkina Faso as a way to win Burkina Faso over, because in the AES nation, Burkina Faso is the one that is actually pushing now. That is not to say we want to.
I miss who's doing this?
The U.S. embassy, the ambassador
Yeah.
in
Okay.
Burkina Faso. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they went to Burkina Faso, trying to collaborate with Burkina Faso to build a mini clinic as a way to win Burkina Faso over, because they have tried Burkina Faso with the IMF, it did not work. Okay, a World Bank, it did not work. So now they try to go in like, okay, we want to come do development thing. So Burkina Faso said no. First of all, when they went, Abraham Touare did not meet the ambassador. He sent somebody, to go meet him, right? Or to go meet her. So, and they told her, no, we don't want mini clinic. We are talking about building gigantic clinic. We are talking about, hospital, not even clinic. We are talking about, development. Are you talking about you want to come and build mini clinic? We don't need it. And after that, Abraham Touare went and bought about 200 of truck, with truck or medical truck that go around to villages to treat people where, where they have no hospitals and things, and distribute it in various villages and things to treat people. And then went and put on a gigantic clinic. Not clinic, but hospital, and things. And look, this guy, he's so amazing. And because that happened, mainstream media did not bring it out because they got busted and they told them, no, we don't want you. However, Abraham Touare was going to agree, they was going to publish it. Oh, Abraham Touare agreed to the United States to build mini clinic. Like they were going to publish it, talk about it, just to make this guy look ugly. But because they went silent on him.
Man, you know how the West do, man. I'm glad. I'm just appreciate what I see going on, specifically in Mali and Burkina Faso, and I know Nigeria is part of that, big three. But just the things I've been seeing in the news with Mali and Burkina Faso, how they have been, just pushing back on colonialism and neo-colonialism. And they've been doing a great job of just the decolonization process is real in these places, from the renaming of streets and buildings to nationalizing resources, markets over there, so that the people can benefit and that the people have control. All of that is happening there. The Western media is like, yeah, you're not, when they are when they have these when they do these great things, amazing things from the president and the people, it doesn't get covered, and so now you have to go to people that are on the ground, or just like you really have to do some hard research to find out like what's going on over there, because there's not a lot of media sources covering it, right? Like I was seeing something about President Ibrahim was built like 50,000 homes, free homes or something like that. And I'm not too sure if it happened or not. I don't know how valid the source was, but it was just something that I came across. But that's the thing. It's like, we don't know all the great work that's being done in those countries. But I appreciate you bringing that. I don't know if Natasha, you wanted to build on that.
I guess I'll add just a little bit. I think, like you were saying, I think for me, hearing the story is amazing, that things that they try to set African countries up to not be able to do, in terms of like, the stories that we hear, like, oh yeah, African countries, they can't do this for themselves, they can't do that for themselves, so then they could be the ones to like swoop in as a hero or something, like the US was trying to do, and be like, oh well, we'll give this to you, and the amazing part of him being able to do that and show that, these things that you think that we can't do, and these things that you've tried to set us up to not be able to do, we can do those things. So don't come over here trying to pretend like you're giving us some kind of gift. I think like, it's almost like a slap in the face in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you as the US go over there and try to, say, oh, this is, and this is similar to a lot of what they do in a lot of places right there.
Mm-hmm.
They want to send over peacekeepers. They want to send over that's the whole thing about the Peace Corps, right? People going around and giving medical help and doing all this other stuff. And as if these countries that are offering these things are not the ones who help to destabilize and make you, have to deal with all of these other things that may or may not make it harder for you to be able to provide these kind of services. But Burkina Faso being able to show like, look, we can do these things. I can do these things for my people. We don't need you to come over here and try to act like you're coming to save somebody. We got this. So I just say, kudos to Burkina Faso and Ibrahim.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a lot we can learn from them. Like Dr. Emerson Wilson, he talks about this too. Just like we have the resources, right? We don't have to go outside of ourselves to get help for us to solve the problems within our community. And no one has a better answer to solve those problems than the people who are going through it, who are experiencing it, right, firsthand, right? And definitely don't need the answer to our problems solved by the people who are creating it, as you alluded to, Natasha. But Dr. Emerson Wilson talks about that. I was just reading, self-hatred, self-defeat. What is it? Self-hatred. Get that title for me. But one of Dr. Emerson Wilson's latest published books. But he talks about that, how, in Harlem and in some of our predominantly African cities, we
self-defeat.
Yes, that's it. Right. We spending our resources, like if people are from other communities coming into our community and they are able to build businesses and build an economy off of our resources. So it's not that we don't have the resources. They're just not benefiting us. They're benefiting other communities. And so we pull those resources together and begin to develop, our own economy, controlling our own institutions, political, educational institutions. We don't have to worry about nothing, man.
Yeah. And I'll just add one other thing. I think it's also important when we're seeing this being, how he was able to send, all those medical trucks out and give, health treatment to the people. But it also shows, and it reminds, and it makes me think about the story that, I'm looking at for today, but also, something like that a friend of mine, she was telling me about, she had her children were in Ghana and, something happened and they were trying to find some medical attention. And I even remember when I went to Ethiopia too, there was some stuff around like medical attention, particularly in like the more disconnected communities from like the main, ones that we would think about, and the need for medical help, but what the country decides to do about that, right? Like those times when people are complaining about, medical treatment, the lack of it or the quality of it within Africa, you got to look back to, okay, what are the leaders doing? How much of an importance are they placing on that? And so when you look at, some places, when you see puppet governments, those puppet governments, a lot of the times, they'll neglect their own, the people in terms of thinking about, the quality of medical treatment that needs to be available in order to be able to gain favor from the West. And so you see here, where instead of trying to gain favor from the West, Burkina Faso is focused on making sure it's taking care of its people. That you can make a decision, you can provide, and African countries, they have the intelligence, right? They have the people there, and we know that there's other countries, that they can partner with as well if they needed to, in order to provide those for their people. But it goes against the interests of the U.S. because then they can't go in and send in people, to try to do these things because you're already taking care of it. And so, it just goes to show, like, the governments of Africa, just like Burkina Faso could do it, those other ones, they could also do it as well.
Yeah, they could do it, but it's hard, Hey Frank, they come in, they like, they need 10 million. They need 10 million to build the hospital, but the U.S. government come in and be like, yeah, here's 100 million for your hospital. They know you take that money. Now they got you.
Yeah.
Man, all you needed was 10 million, 100 million. They know what they doing. Here's 100 million. Boom, we see you later. Oh, we know you just need 10 million. Yeah, but take that. Don't worry about it. No, it's yours now. Nah, let me. Hey, that's how it be working though, y'all. Hey, the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. But let's move on, man. We eating time up. So really quick, I want to let everybody know what's going on today, because once y'all finish, with us, there's some other things that you can do, today and tap into. So first thing, ASCAC. Let me
Yes.
share this really quick. This is going on right now, and don't you go anywhere. Don't you go
You should have saved it for the end of the show.
I should have saved it for the end. Hey, nah, our people are loyal. But ASCAC, this is going on right now. The Eastern region is having 27th annual tribute, having a virtual conference and 27th annual tribute to Dr. John Henry Clark. Education for liberation, right? So that's the theme. SEBA, education for liberation. Hey, Natasha, we just had a talk about this, right? Education for liberation.
Yes.
So this is happening now. I was at the opening ceremony yesterday, and that was dope. They showed the documentary. Sister from Canada did a documentary looking at the Black community in Canada and sort of like their history and their lineage, where they came from, where they migrated from. And dope documentary is on YouTube. I can, share that link in a minute. And today it's going on from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Keynote speaker, ASCAC president, Dr. Mario Betty. So you can check that out. Go to, what's this, Do the Work Instagram, or, just actually, I'll put this link in the chat so you got that information. So we'll do that. And I have one more thing that I want to show you as well that's going on right now that you guys can tap into after this. Boom. And I'll share this link as well. The National Black Radical Political Congress is having their third annual conference right now. So you can go and register. This is happening today and tomorrow. And I'll put this link in the chat for you guys. So this is National Black Radical Political Congress. A lot of dope speakers. Dr. Khalid Rahim, Dr. Cornel West is going to be speaking. Ajamu Baraka, Black Alliance for Peace, Chairman Omali Eshatella for African People's Socialist Party. So tap into that. I'll put the links again in the chat. You were about to say something, Natasha?
No, I was just looking at the flyer closer. I know for a second I was like real close to the
No doubt. So did you have a story, Natasha? I got something that I can share if not.
Yeah, no, I have a story.
Okay, go ahead, and I'll share these links while you do your
Okay,
thing.
great. So I'm gonna kind of switch back and forth, I guess. Let me just share my screen real quick. Yeah, nope, that's not the one I want to share. This one, okay. So how come I don't see it sharing? Oh, there it is. So the story that I wanted to share today was about defending the ancestors. It's entitled "Defending the Ancestors Against Big Oil on South Africa's Coast. Indigenous People Fight to Protect Their Sacred Waters." And so this story is about a particular area in South Africa, on South Africa's coast, called Dwesa. It's a nature reserve where we have, in the what they call the former Transkei region of South Africa's Eastern Cape Province, where a lot of this group of indigenous people live, this group of indigenous Africans live in the area, it's being Shell in particular, is back at it again, in terms of trying to drill in the area for oil. So I'm just gonna skip down a little bit more down here. And so we have this is Malagomwe David Gonskwe Gankose. So Gankose and his community, I'm just going to go through it really quickly. Gankose and his community live in this area in Dwesa, and they live near the ocean. It's a community near the ocean. They were able to actually get this their land back in sometime in the early 2000s. But they rely basically on fishing and getting, getting fish and clams in the area for them to sustain themselves. And also their spirituality is deeply connected to the ocean as well. And so in October of 2021, Shell announced that it would commence a 3D seismic survey of 25 kilometers off the coast of Dwesa Nature Reserve, where the people live. And so Shell is a British multinational company. If you don't know, or, maybe, definitely I would advise you to go look it up, how Shell, as this British multinational company, the damage that it had done with drilling oil in the Niger Delta region, and that, they're being sued still today for, they want to now drill off the coast of South Africa, where in this nature reserve, near this nature reserve where the people live. And so they acquired a 50% stake in the areas for which Impact Africa Limited, a privately owned oil and gas company, was granted exploration rights by the South African government in 2014. So the outcome of so there's been a long legal battle between the people who live in Dwesa and the Shell Oil, Gas and Oil Company, along with Impact Africa Limited, because the way that they went about getting the permit to be able to do this seismic surveying did not include any consultation with the indigenous people. And so in order for, and also them doing the survey, they survey first before they start to drill. So this is just a precursor to them going to drill. But even the surveying has impacts on the wildlife and marine life that exist in that area, that is part of the livelihood of the people who live there. And so it's still in the courts currently. And so the outcome of this is going to have major implications for the cultures, livelihoods, and spiritualities for that community. And so just to tell you a little bit more specifically, when we're thinking about even the noise of these seismic surveys, right? So when they're doing these seismic surveys, research shows that there's evidence that these seismic surveys are harmful to marine life, and that the communities also argue that the impact, like I was saying before, failed to consult them, even for them to be able to do this seismic exploration that they're doing right now. And so when it was initially granted to them, when Shell was initially granted access to be able to do this kind of surveying, the community challenged it, and they were able to gain some support from the court, saying that, okay, yes, this the right they were given was done improperly, and so therefore it's not valid. And so I'm going to just skip down here to the spirit of the sea. So these are some pictures that show you the harvesting of shellfish, and which is one of the main things that allows the people to be able to maintain themselves, because there is such high unemployment and difficulty finding jobs. But that's a whole nother story, like jobs in terms of which jobs as well. And so this article also talked about like the connection between the Duesa, which dates back 300 years, and the sea. They still maintain that connection despite suffering multiple displacements and forced removals, first under the British rule and then under apartheid throughout the last century. I'm just going to skip down to here, protected area versus customary, because it's a long article. Protected area versus customary rights. So it says that the Duesa settlement agreement was finalized in 2001 when they were able to get their land back. And it included and stated that the community should have access to the sea and forest resources based upon the principle of sustainable utilization as permitted by law. Because before, they weren't even allowed, they were basically forbidden, not even just not allowed, but forbidden to be able to go and fish in the sea in the way that they are accustomed to. So this, if anybody knows, is similar to the ways in which fishing rights for indigenous people in the U.S. were taken away when, colonizers and settlers decided to build along the coasts of waters, but also take their land and, have these agreements that they end up, going back on in terms of fishing rights. And, sometimes we know how the history of Jim Crow, as well as just a European genocide of natives, how they would, even if Native people try to go and fish anyway for their livelihood, that they would be attacked sometimes, killed sometimes. So I'll just jump down to the bottom so then I can just give, but I would definitely encourage people to look at this story, this full story. So I'll scroll down to where it says Shell's final timeline. Once an exploration permit is granted, so they're trying to get their exploration permit continue to be granted, the holder of the permit is able to apply for up to 3 renewals, after which they must start a costly, time-consuming process from scratch. So it says Shell and Impact made their final application to renew the exploration right in 2023, while the SCA and the High Court both agreed that the exploration right had been granted unlawfully. Wilmine Wickham, a lawyer at the Legal Resource Center, a human rights organization representing the Wild Coast communities, explained that the SCA found it too harsh, they said, to force Shell to start their application process from scratch. Thus, the court allowed the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy to grant Shell's renewal application at his discretion. So it says that if the constitutional courts uphold the appeal brought by the communities, because the communities are appealing this because they're saying it's unlawful, Shell will have to start the entire application process from scratch if they still wish to extract oil and gas and waters offshore from the Wild Coast and Duesa. For its part, Shell sees up the potential exploration as a good thing. It says, quote, South Africa is currently reliant on energy imports for many of its energy needs. Should viable resources be found offshore, this could significantly contribute to South Africa's energy security, then the government and the government's economic development programs. And then Gwede Mantashe, South Africa's Prime Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, said that is unhappy about the obstacles exploring for oil and gas. In his speech about, Africa Oil Week, he said, investing in African Energy Conference this month, he said that a main hindrance or risk of these projects being realized was the unabated and frivolous litigation against the exploration and production of oil and gas. So that's just to show you the mentality that these people have when it comes to extracting oil and as like a top priority versus the people that are there, and also the water, the wildlife, everything. So I'll just stop right there, but I'll just read this last sentence where it talks about at the end of the article, it kind of goes back to, talking about remaining hopeful. And I think it's Gonkoswe who says, still he worries that the future oil exploration may mean for his home, his community, and the ways of what it may mean for his home, his community, and the ways of his people. The seawater will be contaminated with oil gas, and the fish that we eat will die. If the fish die, our way of life will also die. Our children and the children of our children will not know about our way of life. So
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Like it's making me think about the article that I shared earlier with you guys with the in Burundi, the communication between women there that is being lost, on the verge of being lost as a result of the changing in the culture and the impact of colonial capitalism. I'm gonna pass it to you, Frank, though, because Frank hadn't said a word since he gave us that story earlier. I'm gonna let you go, and then we're gonna transition. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, you say you wanted me to give a story?
No, I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah. Let me just add on it. Like the you were saying something about earlier about a title of a book, by Dr. Emma Wasson about you said self-hatred is self-defeat, right? You see, let me say this, and to the South African, this is a revolutionary channel. Okay, we don't care about how you feel, but we speak the truth. Whether you like it or not is your business.
Let's go.
You see, the South Africans, right? They always fight the wrong battle. Yeah, they always fight the wrong battle. I mean, these are the same South African, and I'm gonna be blunt on this. These are the same South African, okay, hating their own brothers and sisters in South Africa, killing them. Imagine killing Zimbabwean, attacking Nigeria, killing Nigerian, attacking other Africans, and you calling them foreigners. How can an Africans in Africa be a foreigners in Africa? Okay, and then you lead a foreigners who come from different land, who have no political or ethnicity or even bloodline to the land. And then you allow these people to willfully, freely settle, and then even have their own settlement in South Africa, like we call arena, right? And you don't go after these people. And then you say, these Africans are the foreigners, they are taking your job away from you. How are these people taking your job? Who have the job? Who hire people? Okay, who control the economy? Who control the job in South Africa? Are the Africans in South Africa taking your job? How are they taking your job? But okay, you ran these people out, killed them, and some of them today, they lost their mother, they lost their father, okay? And you are not fighting the right battle. Now, these are the same companies since colonial time. Now, are they going because they love to fight, right? It is good to fight. It is good to fight for what belongs to you. It is good to get what belongs to you, and for someone, I mean, very good. I mean, we love that. We love their passion, their energy in fighting for their land and what belongs to them, right? Now, this is the time to go and do the needful thing, to go and fight the real people who are taking your job, who are taking your mineral, who are taking your land, who want to destroy you, even the next generation, to destroy the livelihood of the next generation, that they will have no place. But guess what? As they destroy your place, their hometown, their continent, their land, their family, their children, they will be enjoying. And then your children will come, want to go, as we find ourselves in different parts of people country today, and they call it our name because it's the same bad governance, it's the same neglect, hatred of ourselves that made us in other countries today try to survive. It's the same way tomorrow. Your children will come, they have to go to England, they have to go to Netherlands, whatsoever, to find a better life after they have looted, exploited your resources. Now, this is a time to preserve that land for a next generation. This is a time to put on your warrior armor, your garment, to go and fight for your land, for your river, for your oil, your mineral, okay, to protect your heritage, your culture. This is the time for you to go and fight and stop fighting other Africans who come to South Africa to try to find a better life. Go and fight.
Man, you see that comment right there? No, appreciate that. sharing that, Frank. I mean, it's crazy because this ties into the book that we're looking at, which this is going to be our last day looking at this book, man. We have to transition to something a little bit more radical. So we're going to come back with a different book. But I don't know, Frank, if you was inspired by the chapter we're going to cover today, which we'll get right into because we don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to put the link in the chat and pull it up. But let's continue this conversation about South Africa as we look at chapter 3 in this text. Appreciate everybody tapping in. This is We Charge Colonialism podcast book club. We are Pan-African anti-colonial think tank. We should tap on anti-capitalist think tank as well. I can't stand capitalism, man. Capitalism is antithetical to African people, man. Our culture, our very existence. I'm sorry, maybe in a parallel universe, if African people develop, capital, like if it started with African people, like if we didn't start as like commodity.
I even want to think about that.
I'm just saying though, like
that's parallel universe. It would we wouldn't even be thinking about capitalism.
No, we wouldn't. But I'm just saying, like the reality is that we started capitalism developed. It started with us being commodity, being product. Not being human, and so it continues to thrive off of that. And so let me get into
because like the thing about it is capitalism is antithetical not just to us, it's antithetical to the earth as the existence of all living things. So the world is, the earth doesn't want, the purpose is not for it to destroy itself. The purpose is to recreate itself, and capitalism is antithetical to that, period.
You heard it here. So we're gonna get into this. Not a lot of time, but I'll start off with this quote by Nelson Mandela. Don't curse me out. I'm just reading. I'm the messenger. During my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to the struggle of the African peoples. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic, free society. Pull this over here. Democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an idea which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if needs be, it is an idea for which I am prepared to die. I hear that, man. I can't argue. That's what Malcolm taught us, that if you want freedom, you better be prepared to die for it, pay the ultimate price for it. So going into the introduction, and for those who's joining us for the first time, this is Africa and Global Politics, chapter 3, if you want to follow along. South Africa's transition from apartheid to majority rule has been greeted both domestically and internationally with enormous enthusiasm. Here, in the midst of the mounting conflict and confusion of the post-Cold War, it is undeniably good news story and triumph of peaceful negotiations and democracy over violence, and in many years of white racist authoritarianism in South Africa. President Mandela said the election of April 1994 did not set us free, but we did achieve the freedom to be free. There are new dilemmas in our new democracy and real problems with our institutions and the media face. There are responsibilities and new challenges. Nevertheless, few would now dispute our newly won right to debate and argue about our response to those challenges. This is one of our country's real achievements. It is another personal delight for me today to watch how the divisions of the past are giving way to the beginning of a new South African sense of belonging shared by all. Shared by all? Shared by all. I don't think so. See, this is what happens though when we get caught up in race, when we just get caught up in the skin color. We miss those contradictions that exist internally among African people, right? With neo-colonialism. That's why people will see black. All right, let me sorry.
Well, I mean, just add you could just the quote that Malcolm
Yeah.
said, that there can be no black white there can be no black white I forget the word. What's the word I'm looking for? Unity.
Well,
There can be no black white unity until there is first, black unity.
Yeah. And we definitely don't have that. So a few years ago, many observers predicted that there would be a bloodbath in South Africa and that the whites will never give up. And yet it happened. Why? While in Yugoslavia, Somalia, Rwanda, and other countries, people have torn themselves apart. The South African story was indeed a breath of fresh air. Perhaps this was nothing short of a political miracle. What then is responsible for the South African miracle? There are many answers to this question, but the most important one is the leadership of Nelson Mandela. Despite his imprisonment on Robben Island for 27 years, he did not allow his emotions to cloud his political judgment. Instead, he forgave his captors, and in so doing successfully brought South Africa out of its political misery, transforming it in a matter of few years from a pariah state to a legitimate, enviable actor within the international system. He applied his teachings of morality and humane democracy to his many years of difficult situations. His behavior has won him praise around the world. All these have helped to produce a government led by the same man. Nelson Mandela, described as the last 20th century hero, a truly inspirational figure with unequal international stature and moral authority. At his inauguration as the first African president of the Republic of South Africa, he said, "The time for the healing of the wounds has come. The moment to bridge the shams that divide us have come. The time to build is upon us, and we enter into a covenant that we shall build the society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk tall without any fear in the hearts, assured of their inalienable rights to human dignity, a rainbow nation at peace with itself in the world. We are humbled and elevated by the honor and privilege that you, the people of South Africa, has bestowed on us. As the first president of a united, democratic, non-racial, and non-sexist government, we must therefore act together as a united people for national reconciliation, for nation building, for the birth of a new world. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa." Right. I'm gonna stop there. I want to show this like 2 minutes of a video that talks about how segregated South Africa is. It's funny that Nelson Mandela is sort of he's making these comments. He's making these comments on the eve of like the transition from an apartheid state to the ending of apartheid and what will become a fully democratic, quote unquote, fully democratic South Africa. And I'm just wondering how he could even make those sort of statements as if he could see, he had a crystal ball, and he can see into the future. Because so many contradictions still existed, even at that time, as far as like even the control over the land, that redistribution of land never happened. Yeah, at least it didn't happen on a large scale. Not going to say that there wasn't any distribution, but not on a large scale. White people still control the mass amount of wealth, of the vast amount of wealth in South Africa, occupied Azania even to this day. I just want to just like show just an example. This clip right here is a couple of years old, but I'm going to show like 2 minutes of this.
It showed up when I was. This strip in Cape Town, South Africa, divides the beachside community of Strand from the township of Nomzamo. They're only a few meters apart, but the people on each side live very different lives. Strand has backyards and driveways. Nomzamo is much more dense, and the people here have fewer basic services. Less piped water, less internet access, And Nonzamo is majority Black, while the area across the line is majority white. If we use dots on a map to represent race, you can see how stark that divide is. If we zoom out to the whole city, we can see it's actually everywhere. And this is the case across much of South Africa. The color of your skin here often determines where you live. It also determines your quality of life. This map shows where jobs and opportunities are primarily concentrated in Cape Town. And this is where most of the city's Black people live, in informal settlements called townships on the city's periphery.
People have to move by public transport for up to 3 hours a day, and they can't take care of their obligations in the community with the rest of the family because they're always working and they're always traveling.
For decades, South Africa was under apartheid, a system that wrote segregation into law. A white minority controlled where non-white people could live, work, exist. Many were forced out of their homes. In 1994, a democratically elected government took power and ended apartheid. It was supposed to be a new beginning. But a lot of the country still looks like this. And that's because South Africa's legacy of racial division goes back centuries.
Yeah, I'm stopping there for the sake of time, but I'll pass it over to y'all for any feedback, reflection, man.
I guess two things I'm thinking about. So the way, in which the quotes are set up in terms of, in the reading, how Mandela's speaking of, how they were able to get to this place where, they're free to become free. I mean, things like that. And what a new day that, has been brought. And, that what I'm going to say is not to say that I know, the whole of South Africa or, whatever is going on in there completely. But when I went to South Africa and I went to Johannesburg, I went to Soweto, and also not even just in Soweto, but in Johannesburg, and also, speaking to other South Africans within Cape Town that, that live in near these areas, these Black people, they don't see what happened as a good thing. I mean, at least for the people that I was talking to, a lot of them don't see this as something that happened that's positive. A lot of people have, feelings about what transpired and what happens today. And some of them have particular feelings about Nelson Mandela himself, but that's just to say that, these ideas of, what a bastion of hope South Africa is for how things could be for African countries if they would, follow this same kind of model of, and also the world, because they also hold up the way in which South Africa, ended apartheid as a way toward mending the issues of colonialism and land theft and settler colonialism for other places in the world where you have indigenous people and, being put on small patches of land while European colonizers own most of the land and, have access to most of the resources and are living great, while the people whose land it is, those who are indigenous to the land, are still struggling and also being victimized by the settlers. And so I just think that, like, we have to do, I think that the message that is put out, I guess, on the global stage, I think one of the things that you read before talked about how, this is a source of optimism on the country, for the country. And, it's encouraging. And, I think there needs to be more of a larger study and talk about exactly what happened when it came to the way that apartheid ended in South Africa and what is happening now, and who are the other people too that they don't mention a lot of the time, like we hear of Steve Biko, but we also don't hear enough about Steve Biko. But also, I'm forgetting his name. I'm gonna go try to find it before the show ends. But other people who had other visions of what South Africa would look like that would, not be the way that it is today, that would be more in favor of the indigenous people of South Africa actually being able to have the rights in the land and the access in which they deserve. Yes, Robert Sobukwe. Exactly. That's exactly who I was mentioning. So when I went to South Africa, those were the people they were talking about. When people were talking about what the South Africa maybe that they wanted and what came around, they were raising up the names of Steve Biko and Robert Sobukwe. A lot of them were not necessarily, because of the fact that and I'll end on this point. When I went to Soweto, they were talking about how they were starting to gentrify Soweto. Okay. It's crazy. That's what I'll say about, this portion.
Go ahead, Frank.
Let me say this, right? Let me come with this approach. Nelson Mandela, Dr. Nelson Mandela, thanks for your writing, though. But let me say this.
But great.
Yeah, you see, look, let's be frank with each other here, okay? African around the world. Look, anything that the Europeans celebrate about Africa and Africans people, right? Or any African revolutionary, don't celebrate along with them. Why? Look, if you see the European celebrating Nelson Mandela, they are not celebrating him because he died for Black people, or because he suffered for Black people, or because he spent 27 years in jail, okay, fighting for Black people. That's not what they celebrate him, okay? They are not celebrating him because he stood for a good cause. That is not what they celebrate him for. Now, on the other hand, when we celebrate Nelson Mandela, we celebrate him because we feel that he fought for South Africa. That's not what they celebrate him for, because he fought for South Africa. We feel that, he redeemed South Africa in some other way, right? That's not what they celebrate him for. We feel that he fought for independence in 1994, right? That is not what they celebrate him for. We feel that he fought alongside with other people to stop apartheid, right? That is not what they celebrate him for. Let us be frank. They do not celebrate Nelson Mandela because he did good, because he was an icon to the world, right? That is not what is celebrating. What is celebrating for is when the Black man who they suffer in jail for 27 years, they poisoned him. They wanted to kill him, right? But he did not die, right? They celebrate him because when he came out, when he rose, he did not mobilize his people. He failed to mobilize his people. He failed to bring together his people. He failed to unite his people. He failed to educate his people. The same way that Dr. King said, he felt that he betrayed his people. He felt that he led his people into a burning fire by giving a dream speech. It is the same way Nelson Mandela was unable to bring his people together. And that is why they celebrate, because, again, Nelson Mandela was unable, right, to tell white people, all right, leave South Africa. He was unable to tell apartheid Israel and the supporter of apartheid, today, our freedom is today, you guys should leave. He was unable to look in the face of the capitalists, the enemies, to tell them, you are the enemies of us, to tell them, we are free now, you can go. He was unable to do that, and that is what is celebrating, because today, we still have an apartheid state. That is what is celebrating, because today, we still have the same people, the descendants of the same people who are still controlling the mine, the mineral, the land, 90%. That is why they celebrate him.
And I will just add on to what Frank is saying, going back to the quote on page 46, where it says that a few years ago, many observers predicted that there will be a bloodbath in South Africa and that the whites will never give up power. And yet it happened. The question is, did the whites give up power?
Yo, that's always the thing. Did they give up power? Do they ever give up power? Come on.
Like, what is you just because there's black faces there in different places in terms of government, who's really holding the power?
Man, yeah, for sure. That's why we're coming back with we're gonna dive deeper into this, with some political education, a deeper analysis. We might come back with some Nkrumah, man, or some Fanon. We're gonna see. We're gonna come together and talk about that. But this is going to be the last day. It doesn't mean that you guys can't continue on with the reading. Y'all can still finish the book. That's part of our objective, to come bring these books, get started. But outside of the reading that happens on the podcast, making sure you guys, continue to do a deep dive into the text. We just want to keep introducing new information, new knowledge to you all. So appreciate you, everyone, for tapping in. I'm going to reshare these links for those who may just tapped in to the ASCAT conference that's happening right now. That's going on from to 6 o'clock today. So I'm going to share that link in the chat right now. All right. So that's for my people who want to, Sankofa, people who want to go back, not afraid to go back and fetch for what was once ours. The theme of that is education for liberation. So you're gonna get that there, and this is the link to the National Black Radical Political Congress that's happening now, and you can go to their website and register. That's going on today and tomorrow. So yeah. So make sure you guys tap into that. But appreciate you joining us today. Frank is going to be on tomorrow, so make sure you tap in tomorrow at 1 p.m. As Frank, he comes for, if you want to let the people know what you're going to be diving on.
Yes, tomorrow we're going to be talking about is that U.S. democracy corrupt, right? And then we're going to be looking at the $50 million Bill Gates donated, okay? And for what reason? Why did he do that? Okay? He donated to a political party, Bill Gates. But it says that he gave it to a nonprofit organization, a pass through a nonprofit organization to go to the Democrat. That's corruption, right? So we're going to be looking at that. So the reason here is, why did he do that? Why did he give $50 million to a political party? Why? What is the reason? And, we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at the message of the African youth, the African leaders. Non-play. We are coming.
No doubt. And next Saturday, I know we're going to be, some of us, I know I'm going to be down in DC. We might not be on next Saturday. The Black is Back Coalition is going to be marching. I think it's the 11th annual march on DC, maybe the 12th annual march on DC. So that's happening next weekend. So if you're in the area, definitely get to DC on November the 2nd. And November 4th, Black Solidarity Day. There's a lot going on. Make sure you follow We Charge Colonialism on all our platforms. Again, appreciate you all. We're about to tap out, man. Y'all have a revolutionary day. Again, appreciate y'all. Peace.